edit the segment there here. So as we just heard, you kind of gave a really detailed line of from high school and college and then onward after. Let's start though at the very beginning. Do you recall your first uh, musical experience that you
Oh,
can remember that you're like, what's
absolutely.
that? Tell me about
Absolutely.
that.
My mom was grew up on the farm, and she was the church organist in Marion, North Dakota. I mean, pump organ.
Mm-hmm.
And so she always had music in my home, and she the old joke, she has a record contract with Capitol Records. For 1995, you get once a month you get to pick a record and they send
Yeah.
you an album. So her stereo is where I lived, in
Yeah.
front of her big console stereo, and she had all these classical albums, all these wonderful things, and I would stand there and conduct these classical albums. Uh, but in sixth grade at Grimsrud Elementary, Nancy Otterson was my music teacher, and she had a talent show, and anybody in the school could could do it. And my older brother had taught me how to play the Pink Panther on piano.
Okay.
I learned how to play that. And so the whole school is in the gymnasium, and I sat down and played my little Pink Panther in my elementary way, and that thing got done, and the room erupted with applause. And you would mention a minute, what is it, And I went, what is that? And I sat in my chair, and the applause just went on and on. I was like, wow. And I've been chasing that all my life.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the first thing that said, I'm serious about this music thing.
Yeah.
Then my brother brought a guitar home and a Beatle book, and I haven't put either one down ever since.
Okay.
So I started, my first band was in sixth grade.
Okay.
Yeah, and Powerhouse, and we took second place in the Moose Lodge talent show. We played Grand Funk Railroad's On Time, and there's the album right up there, the second row down, Grand Funk Railroad, On Time. And we played that song, and we won second place, and we got $25.
Wow. Which, again, at that time, was actually some good money,
Sixth graders, And then I had a band in junior high called Spirit Wood, and we played all my junior high dances. At Hughes, we had 2 dances a year. And John Yonker, the principal, hired us.
Mm-hmm.
He said, well, I want you boys to play for this dance. It was 2 hours. And we did that. And I think he even paid us $100. And we were just like, so that's, I was blessed. I had some great opportunities here, and had a band. In high school, we had a rock band, and I laughed because Pam, my wife, was a year ahead of me, and she was up at BSC, and it was my senior prom, and I said, Pam, how would you feel about like not going to my prom? Well, how come? Well, because they asked us to play. In the day you would hire a band to play for the prom, and so she got that. So when I proposed, she knew what she was getting when she signed up, And of course, I played in bands all through college, and had a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So now going back to the Pink Panther part, you had already started playing euphonium at that time, or this was all just by ear? Your brother was just showing you.
He was showing me everything by ear on piano.
Okay.
It was all, and I had taken piano lessons, which I hated. Okay. But my mom made me take piano lessons, and she was a good mom, making me take piano lessons, And but in 5th grade in this school district in Bismarck at the time, you could start band or orchestra. Well, my mother was into classical music, and so I started on violin, and that was cool. I played violin in 5th grade, but then I don't know, somehow my cousin showed me his trumpet and showed me how to play it over the summer, and I just fell in love. So I broke my mother's heart, and switched over to band, and in junior high, Hughes Junior High, again, Harold Kepler needed a guitar player for the jazz band. I play guitar, I'll play, so I got to play in jazz band at Hughes Junior High, and then at Bismarck High, and then my senior year at Century High, Pam was at BSC, and Irv Eli, your buddy and mine, saying to the band one night at rehearsal, "Hey, we don't have guitar players. Anybody know a guitar player?" And of course, Pam, "I know one. He happens to go to Century High, but
Yeah.
And as fate would have it, all of her class from Bismarck High, who were my buddies, they were a year ahead of me, went to BSC.
Mm-hmm.
So we had this killer jazz band at BSC. Clark Terry came in,
Yep.
and we toured with him, and that was the beginning of those jazz festival years where Jackie Byard came in, But I got to play with Clark Terry as a senior in high school.
Yeah.
I mean, so I've had, again, man, that's an interesting question. There's a lot of cool stuff that went on.
The second part of that question, though, is that your musical experiences was kind of split in half. You had the piano, which is all reading, you're reading stuff, and working on pieces there. And then you have the rock band, which is, there's not, published songs.
No.
You have to figure it out by ear.
You literally drop the needle, because that's what we had, needles.
And so, talk about that experience of, here I have this kind of button up the tie kind of, I have to sit here and play, and then I have this other kind of let your hair down, and I'm still playing. I'm playing differently though.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that?
That's an interesting thing to think of. Yeah, you're right. There were kind of two worlds going on, and playing in the trumpet in the band, and then in 7th grade I switched to euphonium. I had that, but I loved that.
Mm-hmm.
I remember not sleeping the night before the homecoming parade, my first parade as an 8th grader. I just loved marching band. I loved band. I loved playing guitar in jazz band where I'm actually reading chords.
Mm-hmm.
But back to 6th grade, well, how did you learn to play? Well, my sister had the Grand Funk Railroad album, and I liked that, and and the Beatle book my brother brought home had chord symbols above the thing. So that's how I learned my chords, and it doesn't take long to figure out that's an E chord.
Mm-hmm. You can kind of hear it.
Yeah, and oh, that's an A chord. Oh, that's neat, And to this day, I have this killer ear.
Yeah.
Where I can hear things and play it pretty quick. You know who's got a killer ear is your buddy Bill Pope.
Yeah.
Holy cow, does that guy have an ear?
Yeah.
But that's how Bill and I, growing up same age, that's how you learned. You figured it out.
Yeah.
And back it up, do it again. And you usually ended up having to buy another album because you ruined it.
Yeah.
Because you dropped the needle so many times.
Mm-hmm.
But that's how we learned to play.
Yeah.
And, I didn't take my first guitar lesson until I was a freshman in college.
Mm-hmm.
There were no guitar lessons. You could get piano lessons, but guitar lessons, there were no guitar lessons. At least that I was aware of.
Yeah.
So I just figured things out. I remember my first week in the Bismarck High School Jazz Band as a sophomore, and Gordy Connacht passed out this piece called Baby, I can't remember the name, Baby Don't Go or something, and there was this massive guitar solo, and it was written out.
Yeah.
Back to the joke.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't play this.
Yeah.
And he said, well, it's a jazz band. It's okay if you improvise something. I could play the crap out of a blues scale.
Mm-hmm.
And so we got there, and I played the crap out of the blues scale, and then it was like, that was it. That was like,
Yep.
improvisation. That's what I do,
Yeah. Well, I only had little glimpses of that, but I remember being at Simile Junior High, and we were doing some
George Anderson.
Yep.
He was my first band director.
Yep.
6th grade.
Yeah. And I'll talk about him in a little bit, but it was just some sort of swing band version of some Billie Holiday Rockets thing, and so it was a blues solo at that time, but I was so nervous.
Sure.
And then I had my little PV amp, and it had a foot switch, and then my big foot hit the phase and the boost at the same time. So it was this swirly thing as I was playing, and I'm like, what's happening? And then it just happened.
Yeah.
It just happened, and I had a little bit of that was good, and then I never had that happen again because of just circumstances. But those kind of things are, you will always remember them.
But George let you do that.
Yeah.
And you're talking about people who have influenced you. Thank God George let you do that.
Yeah.
Thank God Gordy Canuck thought, that's pretty cool. You can really improvise. I mean, he could have insisted that I play the notes.
Yeah.
But he's like, no, I think the improvisation thing, you know, and those things shape you, and those things shaped me as a teacher when I would just let kids, if they came up with an idea that was cool, I'd let them run with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned that from Gordy Canuck, letting us come up with cool ideas and run with it.
Yeah.
You know, he'd get out of our way and say, yeah, this is cool. Go ahead and do that, you guys.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
absolutely.